The best way to get better at programming is to practice. And in this example, we're going to combine a lot of the different things we've done in different function examples into this one example, including the passing of parameters, default argument values, and returning a value. To do this, we're going to create a function which returns a random value between two numbers that are passed to it. And if no values are passed, then we'll do between 1 and 100. As always, this starter file is available for you to download from the link provided below in the description. We'll give you just a second so you can download it, and then we'll go ahead and get started. All right, so let's get started. So we need a special function to generate a random value. Now, to do this, we also need to include an external header. So I'm going to just do that real quick. Pound include. This is going to be time.h. We're going to use this for a special feature in just a minute. We're going to need a function prototype. It's going to return an integer value. So you can say int get random value int equals 1, comma, int equals 100. Okay. So now we're going to write our function. I'm going to copy and paste that real quick. Makes it a little bit easier. Instead of saying int equals, we can't have the two equals. This would actually cause a major issue. So I'm just going to call this a variable called start and one called end. To get a random value, we're going to use the rand function. Now, to get it between two values, because it may not be 1 and 100 or 0 and 100 or anything like that, what we're going to need to do is actually say end minus equals start. This way, if we want to get between 50 and 100, we'll subtract 50, and then we're going to add it to the end later on. Because what we'll then do is say int r, we'll just use r for a random value we're going to get, equals rand. Rand is a special function. It's going to get a random integer, but this integer could be huge. So we'll say modulus end plus start. This will help us to get inside that range that we had. Then we simply say return r, and we now return a value. So we have default values, we have random values. Now over here I can say cout, and I can say get random value and out. Now if I run this, I should get a number between 1 and 100, and I do. Okay. Now if I want to do this several times, I think the easiest way probably is to test it inside of a loop. So I'll just say for int I equals 0, I less than, we'll say 25. This should give us enough default values. If I come in here and run it, and you can see that I get some default values. All of them are between 1 and 100. Because these values are random, I could get repeated values in here, and I may never get that 1 or 100, and that's fine. I'm okay with that. So it just gives me something to start to work with, and that's what I really care about as far as this goes. If I want, I could go in here and give it some values, so I could say 50, 125. And if I do this for 25 times, you're going to notice that I have some new values in here, but they're always above 50 and they're always below 125. So we can make any assumption that this is working the way that we want. And it wasn't very difficult. It was just taking those different components that we had from earlier examples, default values, returning a value, etc., and it makes it work. Now, the one thing I do want to do, and it's always a good idea, and why we had to include that time.h, is I want to initialize my random generator. So to do that, I'm going to say srand, and then I have to pass in an integer. This is a seed, so I'm going to say time, and this is where I need that time.h file. And then I'll just pass in null to that. In doing this, this helps to seed my random number generator, so I get a little bit more random values compared to if I didn't do this. Just as an FYI, random numbers inside of a computer, and almost all computer programs, random numbers are actually pseudo-random. And so we use a seeding operation when we're working with this so that we get different values and don't get the same results over and over again. And even though these examples I've been doing have changed by just a few milliseconds, it's letting us see different values and get a truly randomized example set. Hopefully this example helped you and you've got some use out of it. If so, please consider giving the video a like and look at other videos in this series to learn how to get better at programming C and C++.